Kageki Shojo episode 10 was absolutely fantastic. And it was funny because, like, for the majority of this episode, I was getting really angry. But it's so great how at some point it kind of shifts, and I just could not stop smiling from that point on. It was a really fantastic episode through and through. But this is my thoughts on episode 10 of Kageki Shojo. So let's jump right into it. So this episode opens up, kind of gives us a clear idea of exactly why they chose Sarasa. Well, it didn't really give a full picture, but at least the class itself was getting an idea of why they chose Sarasa. And it was at that time laid out this idea that, you know, since it's our centennial year, we want to try something special, and we want to include somebody from class 100, hence the idea of the centennial thing. So at that point, they're kind of giving that perspective, and obviously the big picture they're giving us following this explanation from, I think it was Ichijo that was one that was telling them, we get this clear idea of everybody's perspective of this decision. The first years are afraid because they think it's going to cause the second years to bully them. The Sawada twins were talking about the fact that, you know, they're fine with it, but it seems like Sarasa always gets the good roles. And following all these kind of glimpses of each person's perspective on the situation, I mean, even somebody was going to Sawa and was saying, you know, it should go by grades and you're the best grades or whatever, but yeah, she pointed out, it's like nothing about what we do here is normal. There's not going to be a normalcy that you can take from the outside world and schooling and stuff and place it into this particular school. But yeah, this is where it starts to get a little bit annoying as, Hijiri, which is so funny because Hijiri, I've never had a problem with her, mainly because I always felt that whenever she tried to do her usual bullying, it just went right over Sarasa's head. And granted at this particular point in this episode, that continued, where Hijiri is basically pointing out all these things to Sarasa, obviously bullying her, and Sarasa, it just kind of goes right over her head. But as Ai kind of points out, she really does technically take something from this, as Hijiri is basically saying, you know, don't stand out. Obviously, you shouldn't have took this role, you should have let it go to somebody else, but your purpose now is to not stand out. Do not overshine the top stars. Become nothingness. And this is something that sticks with Sarasa, is this statement of being nothingness. As Ai and Sarasa are alone in their room, Sarasa's obviously bothered by this, and she has stage fright. And Ai is pretty much like telling her, you know, I don't think it's a good idea to become nothing and not to focus on the crowd, and that she should technically want to, based on her experience in talking with Ando regarding her performance, is not to take her opinion of how JPX handled it, but rather do what you believe the crowd wants you to do. And of course, Sarasa does not take the right thing from that. She kind of mentions it didn't cheer her up at all, but yeah, Sarasa doesn't really take the correct idea from that. She really says, well, nobody wants me up there. Nobody wants to see me up there. But yeah, we have the opening ceremony. Everything is kind of going off on it, well. But yeah, continuously, Hijiri continues to assault Sarasa and saying, you know, you messed up this. You didn't do this correctly. And Risa starts taking note of this. And Risa actually confronts Hijiri and says, you know, why you keep badgering her? You're stunting her growth. You're causing her to not grow as a performer. And Hijiri at this point is really kind of saying, you know, I'm not really bullying her. I'm just kind of a little jealous of her, which, you know, you're literally bullying her. And because of Hijiri's constant assault against Sarasa during this event and even before it, this causes Sarasa to become overly critical of herself, to the point that when they have the halftime show and everybody's performing, Sarasa's so focused on not screwing up that she doesn't even blow the recorder at all. Like, she's not even playing this recorder. And this is finally, thankfully, like, this up until this point, I'm just kind of getting really frustrated. Like, oh my gosh, this Hijiri's, like, I don't like her anymore. I love her Seiyu, which does bug me, but man, they're just making her into just absolute nasty. And thankfully, Risa finally pulls her off to the side. And this is where, from this point on, I just absolutely fell in love with this episode. I was just, like I said, grinning ear to ear. I was just so happy, smiling ear to ear. And Risa basically asked her, you know, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? And Sarasa's like, you know, yeah, I technically, if I were to go on the stage as Lady Oscar, I would be able to do it. I'm not afraid of the stage. I just don't know how to be myself. She says that I feel naked. Like, if I went up there, I wouldn't be Lady Oscar. I would be myself, and I feel naked if I went up there right now. And not only that, but she does not know how she's supposed to not outshine the stars, which is exactly what Hijiri was kind of telling her. And this is where Risa starts really hitting her hard with truth. Like she says, the first time that I met you, you said that you were picked to finally come here and that it was a great opportunity for you and that you were not going to fail. Like we had that whole scene where literally Risa tried to talk down to Sarasa way early on. And Sarasa didn't let that bring her down. She told her she could not be Lady Oscar. And Sarasa said, no, I'm going to become Lady Oscar. I'm not going to lose. And now she's literally giving up. And it bugs her. And Risa says, you were picked. Obviously, that's going to tick people off. But if you fail now, you will tick off more people, or you will tick them off more. It was so fantastic as this is kind of followed up with Satomi showing up. And Satomi kind of comes over and says, look, if you have a problem with acting as yourself, act as a really tall first-year student that got picked to be a sub, and there you go. Which I thought was actually excellent, because Satomi's like, you don't realize it, but we all are constantly acting as top stars. Even when we're not on the stage, we as top stars are having to act as top stars. We're always acting a role. And this technically does hit Sarasa as she leaves. She's like, they told me to act as somebody, but I don't really know how that works. If I'm already myself and then I act as myself, how do I act as myself acting as myself? It's like you're taking way too much out of this. It was also cute because Satomi was walking by. Apparently she ended up bumping into Kazabaru, and Kazabaru basically gave her a bouquet of flowers similar to as what she got before. Said, I'm not quite sure how he was back here, but because only staff can get back here. So it basically pushes on the idea that, yeah, technically Kazabaru is an important person. They would definitely let him behind the stage. But yeah, he got back there and gave her this bouquet of flowers to give to Sarasa because apparently he had to leave. It was cool that technically Satomi acknowledged Risa and what she was doing as well. Just kind of give her a little bit of a reward for helping out Sarasa, which was cute. But no, it was funny that came out of this, again, that she doesn't technically... She takes those words to heart, but she doesn't necessarily know how to use them. Like, here, this is a great advice. I just have to act as somebody else, which would technically be myself who's getting this role. And that will help her essentially break that fear. Like, it doesn't matter that I'm up there because I'm playing somebody else, even though it is technically herself. But it kind of goes in a really weird direction, and the idea of, well, I says, well, it's a good thing to act as if that you're somebody else. And if you're finding a difficulty in being yourself, well, why don't you act as if the thing that you desire to be, or that you think people want you to become? And she's like, well, I've always wanted to be an E-cup. So this turns this whole stupid thing about how she's always dreamed of being an E-cup. And well, how would you deal with that? Well, I would be running and I'd have to hide my chest because I would be too embarrassed about it. But there's all these great animes where these E-cups get these really cool action scenes. And this goes into when they actually go out to do this, was that she's hiding this non-existent chest and she's acting this role out, which was really, really sweet. I got a huge kick out of this whole moment. It's so dorky. It's so Sarasa. Yeah, this continues as they get out there and they do their little relay race, and apparently Satomi is technically in the same line as her. Everybody's equal, and then when they go to take the baton and go forward, Satomi loses or goes to catch the baton because the girl dropped it, and she runs right into Sarasa, and they both hit the ground. And again, this is a really cute moment where Sarasa is basically recalling what I said, in that you need to make sure you focus on being the performance for what the crowd wants. Do what the crowd would want. And so this somehow turns into her and Satomi taking hands and running the rest of the relay with hand in hand. And that goes to the next people. They both hold hands too. And they lose, but they still have this great performance in the midst of this entire relay race. And everybody's like completely blown away by this. And it turns into like one of the greatest, as Ichijo says, one of the greatest moments of one of these events, and great for the centennial appearance. And we have Satomi basically acknowledge, like, thank Sarasa for doing something incredible like that, which is a little weird. I was actually expecting Sarasa to take the lead when they first took hands, but it really felt like she was just sitting there waiting for Satomi to take her hand, which I guess is the thing. If she was wanting to play the female role, and Satomi's used to playing the male role, she would come over there and take her hand. So it was cute. It was definitely cute. And after this, Ichijo acknowledges, or at least I think Mirie was asking Ichijo why she chose Sarasa, honestly. And she's like, well, and I meant to mention this in the previous impressions, is it kind of pretty much pointed out the fact that Ichijo was the Lady Oscar that Sarasa was talking about. Because Sarasa said that I seen 10 years ago Lady Oscar and it encouraged me to do this. And yeah, Ichijo kind of reacted to that. So yeah, this is where they're confirming that, yeah, she said, I also wanted to do something for her because she's so kind of loosely mentioned the fact that she loved my performance. But not only that, it was the aspect of wanting to reward her for sticking up for Chiaki. Overall, super great episode. I had so much fun with this episode. Like I said, just like I think it is an element of playing so heavy on the bullying that was happening. How much Hijiri was really pushing Sarasa, how confused Sarasa became, almost kind of losing everything. And I was totally afraid because when it first started the opening ceremony, I was thinking to myself, come on, Sarasa, please just knock this out of the park. Like, do something incredible that really kind of just shows them all that you were the right pick. But I was afraid at the same time because I'm like, no, because they are really flagging Sarasa. They're really pushing heavy that she's losing her confidence. And so I was really afraid coming into this whole entire thing. And as Hijiri continued to push her, I'm like, this isn't going to end well. I feel so bad for her. Like, this is her opportunity to stand out, and she's not going to stand out. But instead, having Risa finally step up there, having Satomi, give this encouragement to her, give this concept of becoming yourself that's not yourself, was enough that she needed to push her to do something incredible. Now, it wasn't something incredible. It's not like they didn't win. She didn't go out there and start dancing. It was this one subtle thing of creating a performance in the midst of a competition that was enough to stand out from everything else. That's the thing everybody's going to remember. They're not going to remember who won that race. They're going to remember that moment that Sarasa took the hand of Satomi and they ran across the finish line. That's what everybody's going to remember. That's the performance. And it's so funny to have literally this relay race, all these different, sports festivals that usual schools have. But in the midst of it, this is essentially why everybody's here. They're here because they're performers. So why not have a performance in the midst of everything else? And that's what was so cool about it. But yeah, to top that off about the fact that she wants to be an E-cup, so she's acting like somebody with an E-cup. So it was a fantastic episode. I could not stop smiling. Just so good. Just such good writing. And I am very much so dreading the fact that we only have 2 more episodes. I don't know. I know 3 more episodes. I really do hope that they end it with a really good, at least another adaptation coming, or just a really nice finisher to give the series an end. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 10 of Kageki Shojo. Still an absolutely fantastic show. I hope you guys enjoyed my impressions. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. And if you can, support us on Patreon. And I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.